Hello, I'm going to do a video on the Phrygian cap. Now, the red cap, Papa Smurf, for instance, famously wears this cap, though it's not referred to as a Phrygian cap, and most people wouldn't make the connection. But it's quite an old symbol, and it's still a very important symbol in the modern era. So first, I'll go through some modern examples of it, and then we'll go back in time to its more ancient roots. So especially amongst peasants, the Phrygian cap has been a standard piece of apparel, but it has some very important connections to some very important movements, such as the French Revolution. So Victor Hugo, the author of Les Miserables, I put a Phrygian cap on the old dictionary. So especially Les Miserables was about the French Revolution and the turmoil at the time, and about the overthrow of the older nobility. And one of the most famous symbols of the French Revolution has the single breast exposed, which is another common point, but she's also wearing the Phrygian cap, so this red cap with the rounded edge pointed there to the front. So the French Revolution, but well, also across much of Europe. Now, another extension of the French Revolution was this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So apart from the all-seeing eye and for instance the broken chains, the lady on the left holds a broken chain, but here we see on the tip of the spear the Phrygian cap again. So it's one of these symbols you will find quite commonly, and especially in connection to liberty movement. So this is Britannia, English, and this was for the commemoration of the abolishment of slavery. So once again, this freedom and liberation from slavery, and she as well has the red cap. So it's more than French, it's more than English. Again, it's quite ancient. And another, well, in the Americas, so we have Lady Liberty and the Phrygian cap once again. Now, the use of this, the female, or also the goddess as well, there's some connections to there, but they're a little bit extended. So I'm just going to go through the Phrygian cap and just sort of show the importance of it. So here we see like one version of the United States and Lady Liberty. And for instance, and it carried through. So, for instance, in World War One, again, Phrygian cap, the red hat there. Especially in, well, France and England, but especially in the Americas and the wider Americas, including the Caribbean and South America. But the United States Senate, we see there above the shield in the middle, again, the Phrygian cap. The United States Army, the shield again, we see again the Phrygian cap. So it's, well, quite important in the institutions, important institutions in America. But for instance, on the lady on the left-hand side, she's holding the staff, and once again the Phrygian cap is on top. This is the New York coat of arms, but Columbia coat of arms again. Much like the French Revolution, we see the Phrygian cap on the tip of the spear in the center. Cornucopia, you might notice as well. El Salvador is another one of these Central American and South American countries which has a Phrygian cap as a predominant symbol. Argentina, we'll count the sun rays, the shaking hands. These are all very esoteric symbols as well. In Nicaragua as well, so especially the Masonic influence through Central and Southern America, especially in connection to the liberation movements, is something that's quite strong. And well, in Haiti as well, we'll see the there in the center above the palm tree, again the Phrygian cap, though it's blue tip on that one. Coat of arms in Bahamas, they're at the very top of above the shield. Again, the sun rays, these other points which are standard occult symbols. The Paraguay Supreme Court, so again Phrygian cap, and this is on the reverse of the Supreme Court seal. in Cuba. So it's carried through later, so into the Castro period as well. But again, Phrygian cap. Now that's the fasces, the bundle of sticks, which is a symbol of order. But the region of Cuba, the Camagüey, coat of arms again, Phrygian cap and the fasces. Peso coins from Mexican, and again the sun rays, the laurels, and many other points. But again, this Phrygian cap being an important recurring theme, especially across all the Americas, and freedom from slavery and freedom from larger governments. However, this is just the modern era. This symbol actually goes back quite some time indeed, and we'll have a look at that now. So the Phrygian cap, you'll find it going back through the centuries, especially in places like Sicily, where it's connected to peasant movements, or might call them proto-democratic movements, but it really carries through. So, for instance, the three wise men, or the Magi, at the church in Ravenna, Italy, we see them approaching with the Phrygian cap. That they're from the east. This is a strong connection. So Helen and Paris of Troy. Now he's commonly shown wearing a Phrygian cap as well, and this is important because the region of Phrygia, as I'll show in a second, very much the Anatolian part of the world. So Phrygian man, again with Phrygian cap. So Phrygia was actually a region, so it's not just the name of the cap. It's one of the dominating regions in the Greek and Roman periods, for instance. And so we see a map which is a basic outline of the Phrygian region, and this is Attis, so one of the gods of that region, and he was the consort of Sibyl. And again, we'll see him very much like Helen and Paris, but the Phrygian cap. So this relief is doesn't show it in quite so much detail. So here's a diagram sketch of that same relief, just so you can get a clearer idea. And again, these standard symbols throughout the rest of the relief as well. So it goes back quite some time. Now the Amazons, or the barbarians, the people to the north and to the east of the classical Greek times, they very much wore the Phrygian cap, but more than that, they also made Phrygian helmets, so from copper and bronze. Quite a few examples left of these. So it was not just a soft felt hat or a woolen hat. There are more than a few metal versions, and quite some quality as well. So it would have been also worn in battle. And the Amazons, barbarians, one who does not speak Greek, well, of course, were famous for that in the older histories. But I think, at least in my mind, one of the most important connections are the Mithraic cult. So Mithras was born from a stone, and more often than not, you'll see him wearing the Phrygian cap from birth. In Greco-Roman times, especially, the Phrygian cap was connected with free slaves, but as we see, it actually goes back earlier. Sazabios, the sky god of the Phrygian. So in places like Phrygia, Dacia, Thrace, they were all wearing Phrygian caps, so it's not really restricted to the region of Phrygia. Now we also have the standard Mithraic relief. So the standard design you'll see in connected to Mithras is this young man pulling the bull's head back, about to slaughter it, and you'll always see that him and those around him are wearing these Phrygian caps. So it's got to do with also to the origins of where these Mithraic cults came from, and you'll find that if you look into them, you'll see how much of the Catholic early Christians is built around Mithraic rituals, practices, and symbolism. It's quite extraordinary. The Thracian goddess Bendis, she was the goddess of the moon and goddess of the hunt, which is the exact equivalent of Artemis or Diana, the goddess of the moon, the goddess of the hunt as well, the connection with the dogs as well. So here we see another a couple of Mithraic boards and comparisons, just so you see the moon goddess, sun goddess, the Hermes mercurial figure with the Kundalini, or the caduceus as it's called, the two snakes. Now, there's at the very bottom in the center, you can also see the snakes. So that was one of the important rituals connected to the Mithraic cults as well. But so again, Bendis, the Thracian goddess of the moon and the hunt, wearing a Phrygian cap, and later depictions of these Mithraic reliefs still have Artemis, but they're now in a more of a Roman Greco style. So the Phrygian cap predates the freed slaves era. So most definitions will connect this cap to the Romans, and freed slaves actually goes back further than that. It goes back to the people of Phrygia and around that region, which are loosely called the barbarians, Amazons, etc. But more than that, it's not just the cap. Especially if you look in Kershaw, for instance, or the musical mode. So we have the Doric and Ionic, very much connected to Freemasons, but you also have the Phrygian, Mixolydian, sorry, and the Locrian. So it's also, the Phrygian cap is also connected to music, and as we saw, the gods and goddesses of sun, moon, and sky. And so it's more than Papa Smurf. It's more than freed Roman slaves. It's it's got quite some interesting history, and it's been important enough that it's been repeated through places such as the French Revolution, the abolishment of slavery in Britain, and up to the American period such as Lady Liberty. Anyway, hope you enjoyed and have a good one.